Last time on Devox plays Higurashi When They Cry. After understanding what I meant, her expression grew more intense. Seeing that face, I regretted saying something so rash. But she came back at me in a way I didn't expect. What? What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? And now, to continue our peaceful life in the village of Hinamizawa. Ladies, gentlemen, creatures of all origins, my name is Devox Runeheart, and welcome back to Devox Plays Higurashi When They Cry. Last time, Rena crashed out, and it scared the hell out of me. So we're just gonna continue off of that. Yeah, tiny mode. Oh yeah, not only did she crash out, apparently she was let into our house and just stood at the door listening into a conversation I was having with the cops. Notice from the police. I don't remember if we did this one. July 1st, 1982, to Departments 1 through 12. Prefectural Police Headquarters, Director General XXX. The Chief Constables and all facility managers. Regarding cases situated in Hinamizawa Village notes. Okay, I think we actually did. Yeah, I think we did. Yes. We did see that. Yeah. Happy school days ahead? Weariness and a headache. A very nice way to start the day. Wrong, Keiichi. Don't look so well. Did you go to sleep? It seemed that my mom had noticed my sullen state. Yesterday, I kept on waking up in the middle. Without a doubt, I felt a presence. I felt the presence of someone standing in front of me. I told myself repeatedly it was my imagination and forced myself to try and sleep. Except, not being able to stand it, I gathered up my courage and opened the door. Of course, there wasn't anyone there. I think I did this 3 times throughout. Maybe I just didn't remember doing it any more than that. Even though I was able to get to the breakfast table without incident, I still didn't feel at ease. It might be a cold. I don't really have an appetite. Hi. I'm a little... Well? Make it to school? Technically, I did go to a school. It was mostly self-study. Wouldn't matter much if I missed a day, would it? Could have been that I haven't been feeling well for the last few days because I really did have a cold. I took some medicine and got a good day of rest. I might be able to greet everyone with a smile tomorrow. Startled, I looked back and forth between the entrance and the clock. It was 10 minutes later than I usually met up with Rena. It was Rena. I'm trying to get him to get you. What are you gonna do? You gonna take the day off? Rena was a good girl. She might be somewhat quirky, but she was certainly cute. The lunch she made were delicious and she always looked out for me. Why would I be so scared of something like that? It wasn't Rena's fault. Probably mine. It had to have been my cold. Had to be. I'll rest. Sorry. And I'll go send her off for you. I'm headed off to the... I would have to pass by the entrance to get back to my room. I didn't have the nerve to meet with Rena, so I wrapped myself in a blanket on the sofa and closed my eyes. I was so sleep deprived, I quickly fell into a deep slumber. I had only intended to lie down for a bed, but it was almost noon. I called out to my parents, but they didn't seem to be around. On the table, I found lunch prepared and unknown. Mom and Dad had apparently driven off somewhere far away. It likely had to do with Dad's work. This happened every so often, so it wasn't that unusual. I'd probably be back sometime after dinner. On the note, it said, "Insurance card is on the cabinet. Take it and go to the hospital." There's also a well-drawn map to the hospital. Right. I hadn't been there before, so I didn't know exactly where it was. I had a light lunch, so it was really just leftovers from the... Just in case I went to... Normally I'd never be here in the middle of a weekday. Just walking around like this had me feeling guilty. Following my mom's map, I took a road I usually never used. After walking for a bit, the hospital sign came into view. Irai Clinic was written in rather stylishly on the sign. The clinic wasn't very big, but based on the scale of the rest of Kingdom Dama, it was far too grand. Is this not where the lady Mio worked? Down over there. There was a parking lot and even a reserved spot for buses. They must have been making them. I spaced out in the air-conditioned waiting room until it was my turn to be seen. Ibara-san, please make your way to the examination room. After properly answering all of the chatty doctor's questions, he responded with the old, it's probably a cold. He gave me a shot and 3 days worth of medicine. Though it was a little overboard, but if it would clear away the gloomy feeling I'd been having lately, worth it. Settled the bill and took a quick trip to the washroom. As I was leaving, I overheard a conversation between some elderly people who seemed regulars at the clinic. Of course, I had no intention of eavesdropping. It just wasn't for that word. Must have been Oni Kakushi. Wonder. She was still pretty young. Might have just eloped. Boom. A man from Tokyo who visits every season. The young one that's with the big camera. Don't you know they were getting along pretty well? Were they talking about Tomotaki-san? I could feel my ears perking up. I don't know about that, but have to make preparations before you elope. Leaving a note to quit their job or something. It's an elopement because they didn't leave a note on our message. The thought that I'll never see that young nurse's face again makes me rather sad. Tomotaki-san is an Takano-san is an upstanding young woman. Yeah. I have written down. She'll be fine wherever she goes. So her name was Takano-san? That woman with Tomotaki-san. And she worked at this clinic? Oyashiro-sama's shadow was following me everywhere I went. I started listening more closely, but they began talking about fishing, and it didn't seem like they were going to revisit the topic. I gave up and left. Thus, even though I was separated from the daily monotony of school, I wasn't able to escape Oyashiro-sama's shadow. But of course, Oyashiro-sama was the guardian deity of this place, Hinamizawa. As long as I was in Hinamizawa, I wouldn't be able to escape. Maybe it was because I was walking outside, but my appetite had suddenly returned. Might as well buy a snack with change from the examination fee on my way. Contemplating that, I turned to a familiar street. At that moment, I heard a car horn and abruptly honk behind me. I really walking so far into the middle of the road where I'd be in a car's way? I moved further off to the side, but the horn was still honking at me. I turned around, peeped. It was a fat bastard. Ibara-san. Good day to you. It was Uishi-san. He stepped out of his car, AC on full blast, and waved at me. What's up? What's up today? Break? Just not feeling so. I took the day off. I was just about to buy lunch to head back home. That's great. I was about to get lunch, but not going together. If you're not feeling up for it. I was just gonna lie down after going home anyways. Didn't really have a cold. I doubt you'd want to eat at one of these local places. Let's go into town. Bit of a drive, is that alright? I know a pretty good place. I finally begun to understand Oishi-san's roundabout way of saying things. He probably wanted to talk to me about stuff that would be difficult to discuss while in Dawa. I don't know why, his voice is so much easier than Tomotake's. I went with Oishi-san riding in his frigid car. It's almost as if there was bright sunlight, if the bright sunlight outside was alive. Sorry about calling you so late last night. Parents get angry at you? No. I recalled Rena, who had been listening to the phone conversation all that time, separated from me by just the door. Even now, the brightness of the sunlight, thoughts still crept me out. The big bump that jolted the car, the road connecting to the city changed from dirt to pavement. I had swiveled back with sudden realization. That's right, where Toмотaki-san died. They've hit a snag on the investigation regarding Toмотaki-san. Oishi-san spoke while peering at me from the corner of his eye. They believe it was God, but hallucinogen, given how he was clawing his own throat. But a drug that could cause that to happen so suddenly, really hard to come by. Bear in mind, of course, the autopsy was done with that premise in mind. Find any leads. You know that thing you see in comics all the time? There's a drug that if you put in them, it doesn't leave any traces. It exists. The scientific words with a voice. Stuck in the local or something or other. Well, it's pretty common. There doesn't seem to be any kind of drug that would cut Toмотaki-san back like that. And you're saying the police concluded Toмотaki-san just died from the curse? Couldn't help but feel the police were worthless. Just wanted the idea of the curse to be dissociated from Toмотaki-san's mysterious death. Fortunately, that's how it looks right now. Putting aside the cause of death, without a doubt he was surrounded by a group of people and taken a beat. That was no curse, but an incident that unquestionably. That made me a bit relieved. We passed in front of a rather desolate, but still busier than Himizawa train station. The car pulled into a restaurant parking lot and followed Oishi-san into the shop. It was pretty crowded, but there were only adults at this hour. Of course, there wouldn't be any children here in the middle of the weekday. Two, please, non-smoke. This way, please. When you're ready to order, please call me over. We were led by a peculiarly dressed waitress to our table. Sat with Oishi-san in the booth. So, what do you think? Aren't the waitress's outfits here cute? Huh? Well, I guess. The shop is always quite busy. It's more about the waitresses than the food you see. Uh-huh. Oishi-san, you're leering. I really? Regardless of how the waitress looked, the food was decent enough. Finishing our meals while talking about some inane topic, Oishi-san's after-meal cup of coffee arrived at the table. Yesterday we talked about Himizawa's past, didn't we? Yeah, that was the village of man-eating demons or something like that. I didn't know much about it myself, so I asked my grandmother about it. Oishi-san took out the notepad that was stuffed into his breast pocket. Turns out that Himizawa used to be called Onigafuchi, ogres a bit. Fuchi, quite the name. The name is still around. Marsh where the Shinto priest's wife drowned herself is called. Said that the depths of the marsh can realm of deep. Of course, nobody had told me about any such an ominous mark. Really hoping I muted that properly and you didn't hear what I just did. As you see, it appears they were both feared and revered. Respect born of fear, I could say it was kind of deification. Village of inhuman creatures. Teams of demons were Zenin or mountain-dwelling mystics of sort. Making villagers with incurable illness, ogres and myths, healing them. Even if we're calling them demons, Tengu long-nosed goblins or Janin would be a more apt description. They didn't seem like terrible people, even though they were called demons. Still man-eating demons, according to the story my grandmother told me. Payment for treating the son. Let me eat the mother who brought him here. Apparently how things were. The price of curing her son was herself? That's unsettling. Of course, the mother took her son and ran. Then, you see, all the people who lived in Oniga. Demons chased them down, riding them up, and captured them. The entire village, apparently. Quite a frightening thing to imagine. In the end, it seems both the mother and son were caught and eaten. The end. There's a problem with this story. Both witnesses in the story were eaten. They would be able to tell the tale. Huh. There are plenty of old fables like this. In contrast to the ghastly tale, Oishi-san laughed heartily while sipping his coffee. But, well, there are quite a few other tales. The demons of Onikafu banded together to capture their prey. Recall that Mion said all the villagers united and fought against the dam construction. A similarity is in how that part of the unification overlapped. Normally they hunted down a single person, because who was going to be beforehand. That caught my attention. Oishi-san also appeared to be pondering what it. My grandmother told me that you must never interfere with the. You should just pull up in your head, hide under the cover, she said. What does it all mean? It means you mustn't ever help or protect the prey, as long as you don't disturb the demon. Fall upon the villagers. Seems there's that kind of rule. Basically, don't help the victims, and you don't see the atrocities. What happens if you break the rule? Well, many parts of that tale caught my attention. Parts of the story he told me overlapped with his theory that the perpetrators were all the village families. If it wasn't the whole village, it's conceivable that the villagers were hiding under the covers of leaving them to die. When there's a group that was on their hunt. I didn't dare speak. An Oishi-san, and it looks like it's village families or a group of villagers perpetrating the crimes? You think my bar. Excuse me. A cup of coffee, please. That's what I wanted to know. It seemed that they were both waiting for the others to say the last. We were both. I waited for the waitress to finish pouring coffee before speaking. Last year I had a nagging feeling when Satoshi-san muttered as he watched the roll around his. So those friends of Satoshi-san, group of friends, my Bara-san. I had a bit, really just a little, okay? Background check done on them. Rishi-san had said this to me beforehand. I would have been furious since he told me earlier not to suspect my friend. But as I was now, I couldn't. This might sound pretty stupid, my Bara-san. I feel like it's stupid, please say so. I'll just stop. Rishi-san was wearing the most serious expression that I'd ever seen from him. As if he was telling himself to prepare and listen. There were quite a few things I regretted hearing from Rishi-san, but none of them were as threatening as this. The little voice inside me was screaming like an alarm. Stop, Keiichi. Probably the last one. I took a deep breath and silenced that voice. I would not run from the truth. Please. That's all I could utter. Rishi-san stared into my eyes silently for a few moments. After he was certain I was ready, he began. The victim of the first incident, or the incident in the first year, was the overseer. A few weeks prior, he had an altercation with Mion Sonosaki-san. Multiple altercations. Oishi-san had said before that Mion had defied the dam project vehemently. Well, it wasn't hard to imagine how she'd be if she got worked up. Second year, the married couple who supported the project died in that accident, right? They had a daughter. Her name was Sadako Hojo-san. Oh, the gremlin. I think I've always pieced that together last time. Huh? Sadako, meaning Sadako? Oishi-san's look told me my voice was too loud. I realized it as well and quickly quieted it down. Shinto priest and his wife who died in the third year, you see. Their daughter is Rika Furude-san. Rika-chan was the housewife who died in the fourth year with already, don't you? That bond of Sadako Hojo. She was in her aunt and uncle's custody, both her parents in the accident. She lived in the victim's house. I could tell my lips were getting dry. Didn't even have the wits to keep my mouth from hanging a gap. I had thought it was nothing but a bizarre incident, one that I could easily distance myself. Looking and clacking, it had snuck all the way to my. Disappeared on the fourth year, by the way. Sadako-san, brother. Wow, Sadako just got fucked by this curse. Wait a second. Oh, my arms. No, I was taking a drink, stop. Okay. I think it's fine. I don't know why it was just working. Out the technical issue. It took everything I had to finally say that. Gulped down a glass of water and once again wiped my face with a napkin. Calm down, Kiichi, my Oishi-san was relentless. Instead of waiting for me to finish sorting out my feelings, he started speaking. The last of the things I shouldn't have heard. All of the victims connected to your friends. That has to be just a coincidence. Ibara-san, keep it down. Everyone's looking. Yon, Sadako, Rika-chan? But what if they're connected? You're telling me all of my friends? Couldn't be, it just couldn't be. Oh, Rena is different, isn't she? Rena isn't connected with the victims at all. Rena Ryugu was living in the suburb of Ibaraki Prefecture up until here. Well, it's true she hasn't directly met. Said it in a roundabout way, saying she's also connected? Actually, I looked into her before Ryugu moved away to Hinami, suspended from school. Seems she went through her school building and broke all the windows. Rena did that? Broke all the windows at her school? That same silly Rena had? Couldn't even imagine it. Seems that after her 3-day suspension, she didn't return to a neurologist to diagnose dysaton. She was given weeks of counseling and medication. I wonder if it was something like a nervous breakdown. I'm looking that up. What is this? Oh, the top. Uh, Dysautonomia is a nervous system disorder that disrupts automatic body processes. Their automatic functions like your blood pressure and heart rate. Having dysautonomia means these functions don't work properly, causing disruptive symptoms. Um, fuck would that explain for going on a rampage? What does a dysautonomia flare-up feel like? Marked by dizziness, chest pain, and tunnel vision upon standing. Yeah, I just generally feeling like shit. How is that? Eh? Caused by a nervous breakdown? I heard that it happens to people who are really methodical or overly sensitive. Neither of those match Rena's easygoing personality. And the counselor's recorded all the conversations he had with Rena. It shows up. Quite a bit at that. What did? I pressed forward carelessly. Could it be anything more for regret? She mentioned. Joseph. Eh? Felt like someone's stone-cold hand was pressing my back. How would she even know that? Why had Rena spoken of Oyashiro-san before she even came to Hinami? Yeah. Seems the Oyashiro-san she spoke of was a ghost, appearing in her house every night, standing over her pillar. He's suddenly southern, looking down at her. My mind froze. I couldn't process what I was being told. Oh, that's right. According to the residency register, the Yuga family, Renaissance moved to Ibaraki right after she. My mind went completely blank. Aren't they just middle school age? So she was there like a year or two, and then came back, and now she's like, "Oh, I've never been here before." Liar. Similar to this, it's similar was similar to the static you'd see on a blank TV. My ears began ringing as I lost all sense of comprehension. Ibara-san, are you all right? Shall we stop? Those words brought me back. Couldn't let it end here. Now I understand Rena. But the last victim, Otake-san. Who was he connected with? Irritated, I let out one final reprisal. All of them. Arasan. Quite a few of the officers saw you enjoying yourself. There was nothing I could do to respond with. I fell silent as my brain stirred to mush. I don't like how he's off to the side. I'm kind of half expecting one of the girls to show up. Like he's positioned in such a way that you would expect a second character there. We should get going. My Barasan, take your afternoon medication. I completely forgotten about the medicine I had gotten. She said that. Got another glass of water and we left the shop after I chugged it down. We got in the car and returned to Hinamizawa via the rough road. I never really paid attention when I was on my bike, but the cars normally shake this much. It's almost as if the road was desperately trying to tell me something. But don't. The big jolt from the difference in elevation of the road when it changed from cement to dirt. I was certain that I heard Tomotaki-san scream. Also, does this guy not know how to drive a car? Like, you don't full speed when you're changing surfaces like that. He's doing it on purpose. That silence, just letting myself be shaken by the car. Drop you off at your house. Miss school because you're ill, correct? My apologies for the long conversation. Why did you talk to me? Blurted out the question. Really just blurted it out. Didn't expect an answer. I did check with you first, didn't I? We should just stop. Not that. Why did you ever reach out to me? I understood quite well that Oishi-san was investigating the string of suspicious incidents, but why was he telling me all that? I knew nothing and I couldn't help. Everything Oishi-san spoke of was news to me. First of all, what could I, having just moved here now? By chance, if there was a reason for Oishi-san to reach out to me, would it have to be that I looked suspicious to Oishi? If I was part of Mion's circle of friends. I'm retiring this year. I plan on moving away after retiring as my grandma walked. While I'm still on the case, for the truth behind this incident. So, Oishi-san, respect them, don't you? All of them. Oishi-san didn't really give me a response. I felt it a little late, but after I thought it was his way of showing me a bit of consideration for my... This is mostly my intuition. 30 years on this job. Hey, Bara-san, you're the one in danger. Huh? I wanted to reply with, that was absurd, but my jaw-trodden state, I couldn't bring myself to say it. I'll be retiring this year. I won't get the Nagashi next year. I want to settle things. In other words, he was insinuating that the next Wadagashi, I might be the victim. I've been warned by the chief as well. Each incident in the string of cases has been solved, so don't bring it up again, so I was told. This is the pressure I'm facing. Pressure from what? Someone in Himakawa. We've arrived. Fine. After some time, the car finally reached the path to my house. The clock read 2 p.m. Surprised so little time had passed since we ate. Hot outside the car. Dripping of the Higurashi hurt my ears. I won't mind if you just get everything I... Still gonna keep investigating. I'll end share my summon curse this year. You're saying I should contact you if anything happens? It's fine. Just contact me when you feel you have to. I wasn't connected enough to understand Oishi-san's roundabout way of saying. I wasn't collected enough. Ugh. Be sure to take it easy. Sorry for throwing all this at you while you were taking the day off because you were sick. I didn't really have any sort of response. I'll always be on your side. Anything, leave that. I'll be off now. The tires crunched over the dirt road as the car made a U-turn and disappeared in the cloud of dust. Felt like I was watching the road, or watching a boat only throw me a lifesaver in shark-infested waters before disappearing into the... That was the first time I thought Oishi-san was being unfair. Telling me I was going to be the next victim and just saying to contact him if something happens? This wasn't a criminal investigation. He was fishing. I was just the bait dangling off. Would the fish be the perpetrator? Or was it really just Oyashiro-sama's curse? Either way, the bait would be swallowed whole. Damn it. I want to die. Sometime I could do nothing but stare at the puddle of water left behind by the ace. Yeah. What he's doing is really fucked up. He's purposely working him up so he'll draw attention. He's using him as bait. Tips time? Oh. Wonder how much time had passed since I laid down. It's getting dark outside. Body was soaked in sweat. It would probably be a good idea to change my sheet. At that moment, the phone downstairs rang. Probably Mom. Almost quit the worry wart. She had called many times, but I just didn't. Hello, this is my bar residence. Oh, he's alive. Hello. Oh, he's alive. Hello. This is Mion. How are you doing? This is one of Kiichi. Is this one of Kiichi's friends? Kiichi's resting now, but shall I put him on? Huh? Is this his dad? Sorry. Idiot. Fell for it. Huh? Kei-chan! After exchange, we both had a good laugh together. If there was a suspicious of her, even as we were laughing. Was everybody really involved in the incidents? The fact I couldn't say no saddened me. I'm relieved you seem well. I was really worried, you know. Sadaka-chan was happy that and said that you got what you deserved. Rika-chan said, "Oh, unfortunately, he's sick." I don't think everyone was making a big deal out of it. Well, you know, so Kei-chan, and now is now about time to come pay you a visit? Visit? That's okay. It's not like I'm dying. My grandma made a ton of mochi, you see. I was told to share them. So I'll bring you some. Hey, now you'll catch my cold. Not to worry. Both Renan and I are too stupid to catch a cold. See ya. Be there in a bit. She hung up cheerfully. Rena's coming too? It sounded like. Still concerned about meeting Rena, but I guess if she was with me on. Reaching for my drink. No! Damn it. Heard the doorbell 10 minutes later. How are you feeling? Did you take your medicine and rest? I did just that. You look well. Worried. Sorry, I'll be fine by tomorrow. Anne showed a complete lack of concern for someone who's recovering, and Rena looked like she was worried about me from the bottom of her heart. It didn't look like there was anything behind those expressions. I thought we might hang out for a bit, but it looks like you're not quite in good condition. Huh? You don't say? My face appeared a bit sullen. Here, Kei-chan. These are the mochi Mi-chan's grandma made. Rena held out the package wrapped in newspaper. Might be about 5 in here. Quite hefty. Ah, thanks. And my regards to your grandma, Mia. Yep. One I made for you in there as well. Guess which one? This is Kei-chan's homework since he missed the club meeting today. There are letters in each mochi, so I'll ask you tomorrow. Were you checking to see if I was feeling better, or did you just come for club activities? Yep. Looking fine. Guess you'll be able to make it tomorrow. Man, what are you going to do if my fever comes back because of your shenanigans? Got your racket. Let's go. The other people here will get angry. Both of them thought my parents were home. It was because the entranceway was a mess. You're right. Let's get going. By the way, Kei-chan. Yeah? Okay, yours is less creepy. What did you eat for lunch? The sudden question startled me, and I went wide-eyed when I saw Mia. Never seen her like that. It was a highly unsettling visit. But why would she ask me about what I ate for lunch? What she said was so inane and it was almost me. When she said it, it almost looked like she didn't even care about what I ate. I ate out? Must have suspected I was with Oishi-san. Anyways, I felt that if I hesitated or tried to change the subject, then I'd read too deep into it. I tried answering as quick as possible. Contrary to the efforts I had made, there was a pause before they replied. I don't like hers. I don't like hers a lot more than I don't like Mion's. Oh, for lunch, Kate. Glimmer in Rena's eyes had changed at some point as well. Now sharp, as if to make me feel the faint ignorance behind her words, to even as if she knew that how it looked to me. Well, was it good? You're asking me that. I was speaking in an unusually low tone, as if she knew I'd eaten to the restaurant in town. No, I'm overthinking this. I mean, both of them should have been in school at lunchtime. There's no way they could have known where I was. Seems you were with a rather austere-looking older guy. Was he? The package with the mochi I was holding slipped out of my hand. I could tell the blood had drained from my face, making me go pale. Oh? Ichikan, who was he? Could it be the person from before, I wonder? Oh? Ichikan? Was he? He the person from before, I wonder? I wonder? I could feel the back of my throat going dry. It was no longer a bluff. They knew everything? How do you know that? Everything I had to finally force those words from my knees were shaking. Because there's nothing this old man does. Leon sneered knowingly. Her laugh seemed to carry on forever. So, Kate-chan, what did you talk about? Seems you got pretty worked up over it, too. Damn it, Keiichi! We weren't talking about you guys. It didn't have anything to do with you, Arena. Huh? Is it a bit strange to hear our names? A bit strange to hear our names, even though about that? Rena's unwavering gaze pierced my eyes and peered further inside me. I dug my own grave. My heart was throbbing so much it felt like it was going to explode. Well, whatever it is you're trying to hide, this old man already sees through it all. Remember that. I couldn't even shake my head. It took everything it had to stop my teeth from chattering. I never let her gaze break for mine, even as she tilted her head slightly. You don't look so good. You should lie down. That's true. We should both head back home. As if nothing had happened, they both giggled at each other and started making their way out. I hadn't moved a muscle since I had dropped the package of mochi. As they left, the door slowly closed behind them. All I could do was stare, as if I couldn't move until the door was completely closed. Just as the door was about to close, it opened again slightly with a sudden crack, sending my heart racing once again. A single eye peeped through that narrow slit. Leon's hawkish gaze peered at me once again. UK-chan? Yeah. I'd hate it if you missed school tomorrow, alright? Thud. The door closed. I wasn't able to move a muscle even after the laughter died off into the... once again enveloped the room. Coming back to my senses, the first thing I did was lock the door. Yeah. They knew what Oishi-san and I had talked about? Why? How? No, that wasn't important. Thinking about it now, all of it could have been overheard from the beginning when Oishi-san met me. As Mion said, I couldn't hide anything. What were they trying to tell me? Part was obvious. Warning me not to say anything unnecessary. What did they deem unnecessary? I only talked with Oishi-san, and they were warning me that that was unnecessary. What was it that Oishi-san talked about? Incidents involving Oishi-sama's curse that occurred every year with burnt individual cases. But were connected as a whole. As well as the fact that there may be multiple perpetrators hidden within Hinami's... No, more precisely, Mion, Rena, Sadako, and Rika-chan were all suspicious. Is that what they were warning me against? What kind of nonsense am I thinking about? I hit my own face hard enough that I let out a loud slap. Only that would wake me from this nightmare. For some reason it felt like I was punching a bull. Almost laughably plain. Calm down, Keiichi. When did I become such a pessimist? Calm down, calm down. Settle down and sort things out. The reason Mia knew I was eating with Oishi-san is probably because someone from Pikawa just happened to be there at the time. Must have told Mion that I was... That made the most sense. Let's come to think of it, she didn't ask me where I ate lunch, did she? She only asked, was it good? We were just curious since I was together with someone not from Hinawa. Not as if they had any ulterior motive. That's it, that has to be it. Thinking about it that way, same with Rena. I was just being strangely ambiguous about when I was Ishi-san, and Rena was just correcting me. That's when I would. That's when I was bewildered by the change in character from the mild Rena, startled by it. That's the most natural way of thinking about it. I felt like my mind was mixed up like a tangled mess of spaghetti. Deep red marinara sauce would have poured out of my nose and ears if you squeezed my head. Thinking that, I suddenly felt like vomit. I really didn't want that to happen, so I stopped holding my head. Lately, I had no idea what anyone was saying. Spending time with them was fun. It didn't feel like there was any sort of hidden agenda. I really do think that they're a good bunch of people. When I just moved here and couldn't make heads or tails of anything, they were really kind to me. Friend was really kind and always looked after me. As long as that strange affliction didn't rear its ugly head, she was pretty cute. Mia was also a really good person. She didn't care about anyone's age or gender and was optimistic and knowing. Never bored when I was. Talking of not getting bored, Rambunctious Sadako was a good person for that too. Pretty bratty, but that was just the way she interacted with others. Rikishan was the same way. She didn't speak often, but that didn't mean she was silent. They're my friends. But after hearing the bitter, untold secrets of Hinamizawa from Oishi-san and Toмотaki-san, I was told about Oyashiro-sama's curse. Things started going crazy. And hearing from Oishi-san, Mion, Rena, Sadako, and Rika-chan were all suspicious. After that, everyone changed. That's right. I started getting weird after Oishi-san told me all that. At that time, I really should have just not listened to his weird stories. I even shouldn't have heard about the past innocence of Toмотake-san and Higurashi. I hadn't gotten that strange sense of curiosity if I just didn't. That's right. So that's why they killed Toмотake. That impudent outsider speaking to the likes of me after everyone went out of their way to keep. They probably kill Oishi-san too, as well, or try to unearth what everyone was warning me left better unburied. Besides that, he was unforgivable for spewing words that made me doubt the others. Of course, a guy like that is going to be killed. Well, Toмотaki-san and Oishi-san were nothing but outsiders. They were entities who couldn't coexist with the people of Hinamizawa. Those guys should fall to Oyashiro-sama's curse and just die. Wow. It wasn't their fault. My fault for not being able to hold back my curiosity. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault, it wasn't their fault, it wasn't their fault, it wasn't their fault. I settled into a daze. It was a lethargic feeling I had just gotten up. Ominous chill that haunted me. Decided. I was fine now. I was no longer frightened. Completely recovered. Go to school tomorrow, right as rain. Greet everyone. Take part in club activity. It'll definitely be fun. Had to be fun. I was one of them after all. Oh, that reminds me, need to eat those mochi. Don't eat the mochi. I hope I'm able to tell which one is Renichan. I remember the homework the two brought with them visited me. Now our club, wow, our club did deliver. That was something else. I picked up the packet I dropped on the floor and headed to the living. It would be nice, I guess, to have some tea with it. Fill my mouth mushy while drinking. Oh, what a delectable situation I was in. Opening up the newspaper wrapping, there were 5 plum red bean paste mochi. Ugly inside. There were letters written from left to right. A, B, C. Right now, then, it said Rena made one of these. Or which one? There wasn't much difference in how they looked. All that appeared about this. This was a pretty difficult problem. The biggest difference was probably their shape. I wasn't sure which kind of person Mion's grandma was, but Rena's had to be different from her. Looking carefully, I could see one mochi that was very neatly. So while that, just by staring at it, one felt stood out. It just challenged depends on whether or not the Rena's. Calm down to think even harder. Kendra said her grandma had made a ton of them and she was told to give out some. That meant 4 of these were from a large batch. What about Rena? She probably only made one. Probably spent quite a bit of time on it. Meaning the one Rena made is this one. E. For a moment I thought it might have been a trap Mion laid, as she knew I'd pick up on it, but that probably wasn't the case. Wouldn't be so sure if I knew Mion had made it, but since she had said Rena had made it, probably wasn't a trap. Alright, my tea is ready too. Start with the defending champ, Mion's grandma. Let's see. Huh. Bad. Smooth bean paste with soft, chewy texture left little to be desired. The tea I drank afterwards was also accentuated by the experience. This was an exquisite piece of work. Now, how about Rena's? The creation was so delicate, one would think it was a high-class Japanese dessert. It normally had quite the appetite. It was slightly worried about the size of the portion. But, well, first a bite. Quite the difficult one to judge, actually. Ingredients were exactly the same here, with little difference in flavor. What was different in how it was shaped in the end, so that was to be expected. So the deciding factors would be presentation and volume. Well-formed, well-sized champion versus run of the challenger, with a size you couldn't just get enough of. I'd only had one bite of Rena's. Probably have to wait until after I was done eating the decision. Maybe there was something hidden inside that could cause an upset. Choo-choo. See, my prediction was right. Tongue touched something. It didn't feel like something edible, so I reached my fingers and grabbed it. What? What is this? What's in it? Before I could fully comprehend what it was, I threw away the rest of the mochi I was eating as fast as I could. It slammed against the wall, causing the bean jam to splatter. Then, after sticking for a moment, it slid down to the floor. I was dumbstruck by my actions. What was I doing? I had gone out of her way to make it for me. How could I? Dumbstruck, I looked down at the hand that had performed just a act and then remembered what I had taken out of my mouth. First, I thought it was a hair. Even though it was shorter than me, Rena's hair was quite long. And it wasn't this short. It was also a bit too hard to be a hair. It was thick enough to roll around on my tongue. A bit of metallic sheen on the end of it. Oh yes, the hole for did she put needles in the fucking mochi? There's a hole for where the thread goes through, like it was a sewing needle. Yes, that's right. It looked very much like a sewing needle. Exactly like one. The end was pointed as well, quite sharply. It really did look just like a sewing needle. What I mean by it looked very much like a sewing needle a bit ago. Couldn't answer. The voice inside me already knew. Let me know by chattering my molars together. I couldn't stave off the terror welling up inside me. Suddenly, I tasted something metallic and felt pricking back against. I stuck my fingers to the back of my mouth and felt around to see if I was bleeding. Suddenly, I felt the urge to vomit. A sharp taste of bile irritated the back of my throat. I clasped my hands over my mouth, and after writhing in agony, I was somehow able to hold back the nausea. I was finally able to breathe normally again, but this time my heart was intensely throbbing. Then it finally registered. Exactly what was mixed in. Before I could think of the correct word, my hands were already on the move. Flat. Lord. I tossed the rest of the mochi against the wall. The geometrical patterns of the scattered bean jam on the wall suddenly invoked a terrible omen. After looking away, I dashed out of the hall and flew upstairs to my room, where I stayed under the covers until morning. I clutched my own shoulders, howling madly in a mix of fear, anger, sadness, and frustration. It wasn't a threat or a warning or a reminder. Nothing as simple as that. What happened in Hinamizawa? Happening in Hinamizawa? What would happen? I didn't know the answer to any of these questions. Where did I break a taboo? Regardless, now Brianna and Mion, they considered me an enemy. They thought I should die. I won't let you kill me for such a pointless reason. I fell into a restless sleep, and as I was crushed by my negative emotions, it was as if I was being drawn into a billowing bottle. We going to school tomorrow? I don't even know if that would. You have received new tips. What's a medicine that makes you commit suicide? Right. Hard to swallow. Enjoy? Question mark. A homemade snack. A drug that makes you commit suicide. Let's cut to the chase. Drug that makes like, third drug that causes someone to kill themselves. Not directly, no. That's quite a roundabout response. You're saying there's one that does. Something that puts you in a suicidal mental state like that? Hard to say. What could a suicidal mental state be? A person with serious bipolar disorder? I believe that most people are likely to attempt suicide when swinging from depression to clinical depression and bipolar disorders are different. Clinical depression indicates a prolonged state of depression, whereas bipolar disorder is characterized by a passive depressive state accompanied by a very active manic state. Individuals with clinical depression suffer from low self-esteem, quite pessimistic, rarely commit suicide. They do not have the willpower to commit, nor does mania on its own lead to suicide. That has the opposite effect, filling a person with confidence and making them feel as though they're walking on air. Thus, they do not commit. That's interesting. I'm just gonna. That's interesting. Neither state causes suicide, but when the condition changes, they might. There's a desire to commit suicide in a state of depression, but do not have the willpower to commit such a. When they enter mania, they gain a burst of willpower. The body moves as they desire. You see, it means they gain the willpower to commit. That's how it goes. That's why patients are given sedative drugs during that time to keep them from acting. Someone talking bipolar? People who suffer from bipolar disorder generally commit suicide but more civilized, like saying hanging or jumping off. Self-harm going through is as though going through withdrawal is completely different. Otake's death wasn't civilized, so one would say it was caused by some foreign substance. As I said from the start, tell me tell me of a drug that causes someone to commit. There are reports that methamphetamine overdose causes a condition that resembles bipolar disorder. Stimulant, barbiturate overdose are also reported to cause erratic behavior. That's sleep aid. No signs of stimulant. Are there any other possibilities? All I can think of is that there was some sort of illness, like Graves' disease, affects the thyroid, is known to cause symptoms that resemble bipolar disorder. Graves' disease has many characteristics of its own. The disease exhibits none of them, or the deceased exhibits none of them. I wonder, is there something that could happen more simply, something that fits the case, and would cause someone to walk out all of a sudden? Are you familiar with organic mental disorder? Sure, it's a condition where the brain is out of whack due to a physical injury or illness. It can be caused by drugs, but it can also be caused by physical trauma, encephalins, stroke, or even. Basically, even without a drug, one can succumb to a regular mental. The deceased is surrounded by. The deceased was surrounded after being chased, and his life was in danger, right? All that stress could have messed with his brain chemistry, could have hit his head, and factors combined might have caused him to mutilate himself. It is a possibility. Could you explain to me in simpler terms? Well, basically, he knocked his noggin in a brawl and made him go haywire. Then his lady didn't have any intent to kill. Just smacked him in a bad place when he nicked some change. Nicked some change. The plump men laughed hoarsely. But of course, it's not like that. Hem, undoubtedly. If it was habitual drug use, then if it was something mental, the deceased body holds the key. How are things in your end? My goodness, look at the time. I need to get back, or Kuma-chan will get angry with me. Yeah. Good luck. Best wishes. Best wishes. So the only conclusion they really have is it definitely wasn't something he did of his own volition. Something was fucking with his brain, but they don't they did not find any traces of any known drugs in his body. So it wasn't chemical like that. Highly unlikely. Damn it! The second I grabbed my drink. Okay, it came back quickly. But yeah. So potentially something foreign in his brain, like a tumor? Like a tumor, like you could just activate it at a whim. Something's fucked with him. He did something to him. Fucked with his brain. Actually, now that I think about it, could they have beaten him down, held him down, did something, and just let him go? Because they're like, we're under the. For some reason, they're under the assumption that he was alone because he had gotten away. What if he would just let go? Because like, I know we just said no poison, but like, if you inject someone with poison that is 100% kill, you're like, yeah, just do whatever you want. You got like 5 minutes. That might be kind of what happened. Not a chemical. They did something. Or guys just had national prefectural assembly member and city councilor Sonozaki. That's interesting. Prefectural city council. 30 is what it's counting out each other's names. One is up for election. I don't know much about this stuff, but it's not against the rules of the election. As long as they have no prior consultation, there's restrictions on the Kumachan. Investigation division is pretty tough for you. You should at least brush up on it. Not suited for the intelligence, because I'm dumb. There was a prefectural assembly member, Sonozaki, and city councilor. Also the mayor, he was all involved with the Sonozaki family. What crap. Looks like they were seen off by department chief. Came to me. That night, when the chief invited me along to get, thought that was it. You have a lot of connections. You might have heard something. Did you? Nope. Thing. Ma'am, I'll take tofu, fritter, and fish cake. The counselor barked at me and the police chief stepped. Oh my, is that so? Ma'am, I'll take another bowl. Prefectural assembly members, Sonozaki and city councilors, both intimidated. Our snot-nosed career police chief couldn't even handle being yelled at by them. They're like Yakuza. In addition, what your name came up regarding how the investigation he handled. Goodness, me? I'm not the faintest. No need to play dumb. We're reopening the case regarding him, aren't you? I've already got my hands full with Tomataki's death act. Really? That's just no problem. There was a period of silence. While we were silent, I made headway on our... Dude, that was quite the feast. This month has been a bunch of losses for me. Walt was feeling the pinch. Much appreciated. Nah, it's nothing. Tell me a good horse again. I'll bet on the same one as you. I haven't been doing too well there lately. I haven't been able to read the horses at all. Taxi. I'm going by train. Police chief is taking the taxi. I have my own car, but it's rash to drive it home. Can't blow it right before retirement with a DUI. Even though he could still rattle off, it looked like his legs were already gooped. Pushing into the cab, I gave the driver the police. Well, see you again tomorrow. Happy New Year. Oishi-san. Yeah, yeah. Past incidents, stop lumping them all together. Those villagers half believe that the curse is... or it's really a curse. Well, I'm not convinced. You're gonna be retiring next year, aren't you? Aren't you gonna pay off your mortgage with your pension? Kaida with your mom. Other pines to return to the land of earth. The least I can do. Pension, well, it'll let me enjoy myself in Suzuki. Yeah. The police chief may issue a special retirement salary raise. Public service pension is calculated based on their salary. So if you were to get a raise right before your retirement, your bonus, 2 years salary, you'd get a heavy surplus of funds. That tends to be how it's done around. Of course, it's not a custom that's thought of highly. The difference between the bonus and the pension is quite a bit. I'd expect nothing less exemplary from our egghead chief, but, well, they say our salary is compensation for our hard work, but again, it really has to do with the passage of time. That's not something I can laugh at, but I laugh through it anyways. I don't think it's anything exemplary. Given how hard you've worked, it's not odd that you're getting that much of a pension. I'd like to get that much. If I can get it, well, of course I'd want it. Yeah, you'll get it. You're an adult after all. Sorry for holding you up here, driver. Thank you very much. Close the door roughly, interrupting the chief's conversation a bit rudely. Looks like the chief had still had something to say, but he just smiled wryly and I waved in return. Cab sped up gradually and soon disappeared among the street of lights. Man, I wonder if I really can repay that loan. Okay. Oh, you know what? Oh, Okay. My arms are freaking out for some. I will be not using them the last little bit. Bad day. It's a bad day for arms. Ah, turn this off. Okay, continue. Tap tap tap. Sound of muffled footsteps stopped in front of my door. Front of the door to my room. A moment of silence as whoever who they belonged to was ascertaining I was sincere. All the things I should be doing. I counted on the. I was very much conscious. My body hadn't caught. Even with danger bearing down on me, I was completely paralyzed. Without a doubt, this was sheer terror. Please, just leave. Hey, why isn't my body awake yet? If they came into my room right now, then died. Wahaha. Eh. Thrown on my feet and threw my covers at my mom, opening the door. Whoa, Keiichi. Matter. Sorry. I was still half asleep. Thought it was still 1 or 2 a.m. The morning sun was already streaming through the gap between the curtains. It felt nothing like morning. Yesterday, I must have fallen asleep right after that. I should have gotten a full 10 hours of rest. It didn't feel like it at all. My internal clock was completely screwed up and my sense of balance. I felt feverish enough that I was clear that I was still not well. Well, Keiichi, how are you feeling? Make it to school? I was well enough to go, but I wasn't mentally prepared for it. I was still plagued with the terror from yesterday. If I had swallowed that needle, what would have happened? Or it had pierced my tongue. There was undoubtedly a murderous intent, but I don't think that was it. That's all it was. If they really wanted to kill me, then there were other more certain ways to do it. They wouldn't resort to such dubious methods, having me swallow a needle. Meaning, I didn't want to believe it, but going that far was just a threat from Rena and Mion. Aren't you glad you didn't die? But next time, third method, like that. Something like sending a letter with a razor inside would have been a joke compared to this. Did you make it to the hospital? Take your medicine? Yeah, kinda. Don't give up my mom's dubious gaze bother. More concerned about her son missing 2 days of school rather than him. It was definitely mental fatigue, it wasn't really physically it. It'll be hard for you to get back on track once your daily routine is thrown off. Come on, get on up. They say wellness is a state of mind. I heard that line many times before. I was given an award at elementary having perfect attendance, but it wasn't like I was healthier. Come on, go wash your face. Breakfast is already ready. There isn't much time before Ren-chan can get you. Mom's telling me that I could argue about it, or I couldn't argue about it, so I had to give up on skipping a second day. By the way, were you the one that got bean paste all over the living room wall, Keiichi? Shouldn't have done something like that. Father was quite angry. I didn't feel particularly angry for doing it, so I didn't have much reaction. Also, Mom didn't question me any further about it. She headed back downstairs after she was certain I was getting up. But Mian said, as she had left yesterday, I'd hate it if you missed school tomorrow. I came back and dwelled at the back of my mind. What does she mean by that? I didn't have to really think about it. Saying, don't be absent. Thinking that a bit further, it was the same as her saying I should go about living my life as if nothing happened. If I showed any signs of acting unusual, it would probably result in them making their. For example, maybe I shouldn't pay attention to someone like Oishi-san entice me with something unusual. Meaning if I didn't watch my mouth or did anything differently from the norm, in fact, I would end up flagging myself as someone who was. Seemed that was something girls didn't tend to forget. So if I went along as normal, no harm would come to me. Was that how it was going to be? All that misery I experienced up until yesterday would, almost creepily, just fade away. Just an enticing deal. It was an enticing deal. Just by forgetting everything I'd seen or heard these last few days, I'd be able to keep living like normal. There's no way such a selfish thing could fall hard. Once again deliberated on the idea I just rejected. Mian was probably a good person who had her friends at heart. She was giving me, who had mistakenly broken some rule of theirs, a chance. Was what I did really something so unforgivable? But Mian had given me another chance. She was saying if I just forgot everything and kept on living like I had been, given. Hey Chi, your food's gonna get cold. Hurry up and get down here. Rena will be here if you don't hurry. I'm coming. I crammed my textbooks into my bag and hastily made my way downstairs. I picked up my somewhat bland breakfast. I didn't have much time. It's already past what I'm. Given yesterday's event, she'd probably be here in the next 5 minutes. I needed to be ready to head to school by then. I had to forget everything that had happened the past 2 days. Forget it all and return to my normal life. For this to be normal, I'll have to be where I normally meet up with Ryan. Day of all days, the place was dry and hard to get down. Ding dong. I jumped to the sound and dropped my chopstick. That chime signal that Rena had arrived. Mom hurried me along. Come on, Rena-chan's already here. Hurry, hurry. My mother merrily smiled at my gloomy face. My gloomy face was the polar opposite. Honestly, I was reluctant to see Rena, who was waiting there on the side of the door. Rena on the other side. Was it the Rena I knew? I couldn't keep her waiting. I need to do things as usual. An invigorated greeting filtered from across the door. Hey, I wonder. The manner in which Rena was concerned was without a doubt the Rena I knew. That was probably only if I reciprocated. Get everything from yesterday, pretend as though nothing had happened. Forget about the gruesome dismemberment. Forget about the mysterious deaths that happened to fall. Forget about the people falling to their deaths. The terminal illness and suicide. The lynching. And the disappearances. Forget it. Forget it all. Forget that Rena and Mion were scary. Of course, forget it all. Forget about everyone. Forget about the mochi, too. Forget. Rena once again asked to make sure. Well, yeah, I'm fine. Great. Go. Waiting. Rena showed me her usual bright smile. I couldn't find any hint of deceit or depression. My nervousness dissipated, giving me a way to relief. Okay, it paused the music like it kept doing every time they switched, and I'm like, oh no. Go, do it. As we were walking, Rena talked about a lot of different stuff, more than usual. Then, not a good job. Don't climb. Don't matter. She tried. So cute. The thing Rena talked about was silly nonsense, applied every so often and time to time. It was a rather laid-back conversation. We passed by one of our neighbors and they called out to us. Oh my, Keiichi-chan and Rena-chan, aren't you two a bit late today? Mion said she was going on ahead. Did Mion wonder? Hurry, Keiichi-kun. As we smiled and parted ways with our neighbor, they turned back towards me and stuck out their tongue. Not expecting that, I couldn't help but crack a smile. Killed. What? Rena stopped and stared at me. Recovered. Keiichi-kun. Now you seem fine. Fine. With a grin, she gently poked my cheek. It was a bright, sincere smile. Hey, Keiichi Maebara, how can you still doubt right after she shows you a smile like that? Maybe I just had a high fever up until today. Imagine everything that I thought happened because it was bedridden. I really hope that was the case. God would grant me just one wish. There's only one thing I'd wish for. I want what happened in the past few days, more specifically from the night of the Higurashi up. I wanted all that to have never happened. I wonder how many times I'd wished for this these past few days. As long as Rena kept on smiling like this, I think it might just become reality. I wanted Rena to keep on smiling. Keep on smiling. Hey, Chica. Mochi yesterday. Get them all? That vain wish of mine was instantly shattered. My heart began palpitating. The relaxed morning mood suddenly became frigid. Brenna's smile was the same as usual. Her eyes were gentle as usual. Those mochi yesterday, eat them all. First, she wasn't asking the question at face value. In other words, Rena was asking, get the message. She was probably trying to convey that. Hey, Ichika? I was reluctant to give an answer. Rena stopped walking and stared deeply into my eyes. Uh, don't hesitate, my bar. Rena was acting the same as always, wasn't she? I needed to respond in my usual way. Naturally, of course. My throat and mouth had gone dry, and my lips were stuck together. Bring an answer, Keiichi. Not much time had passed. I could still keep the conversation going naturally. I had to say something quickly. The eh? Rena playfully mimicked what I had finally squeaked at something out. Rena's that reaction was normal. It seems that there wasn't a long pause as I thought. Somehow I finally squeaked out the rest. Delicious. However, my strained effort neither sullied nor brightened Rena's expression. For a moment I panicked, thinking I'd have replied incorrectly. After a few moments, Rena broke into her usual soft smile, a joyful voice that seemed to echo through the. Being strung along by that laugh, I couldn't help but laugh. Read all of them, I wonder. My timid smile froze again. Make it without swallowing the needle? What she was asking? If I had swallowed it, then I wouldn't be here. Nah, I couldn't finish all. There's still some left. I was scared of my wits, but that's how it played out. Huh? See if you could tell which one Rena made. That homework was due today? That's due today. I'm gonna get angry. See a penalty game waiting for you. Both laughed at each other again. Casual observer, it was a typical morning. I could just let myself believe that I'd think it was just a normal morning routine. But I was certain I wasn't mistaken. Something unimagined buried beneath the thought of this giggling rat. Lies, called the unexpected, piercing voice that I could hardly believe came from Rena's. The moment that image crossed my mind, I felt the cold sweat trickle down my back. Was it only at that particular time that something possessed Rena? No, that was wrong. That was still Rena. Oishi-san told me, didn't she? Actually, I looked into her before Ryugi-san moved to Hinamizu. Actually, I looked into her. I hate that fucking face. Rena had a disorder that normal people didn't. No matter how pleasantly she smiled, the fact would not. But I couldn't even imagine how she looked as she broke all the glass throughout the school. The, one thing I knew was that it wasn't something spur of the moment. If it was something suddenly burst out of anger, then maybe she'd break a pane or two. Broke all the windows throughout the school? Imagine going through your own school, breaking the windows with bringing full force at each pane of glass after the other, paying no heed to the classmates aghast, unable to move from the sudden turn of events. I wonder where she could have found the most. Probably the hallway. Keiichi, you're doing a horrible job of not thinking about it. It was difficult for me to connect that horrifying image with the Rena smiling at me right now. I just had to imagine. Possible because imaginable. That naive way of thinking no longer worked. The unpleasant piercing sound of shattered glass, the crunching noise as Rena spreads across the broken shards. Rena's classmates going pale as they fought to get to breathe. I wonder what they did as Rena came closer, breaking windows along her. They earnestly tried to bring her to her senses. Something? Or did they jump at her trying to free? Or did they run to the staff room if affected there by the team? Probably none of those. The face of that blood-curdling sight of Rena bursting after window after window. Undoubtedly, all they could do was silently clear a path for her. Dumbfounded, just clearing a path for Rena to continue. Far too violent to act for them refuge by looking the other. That's not to say they were looking the other. They were doing the only thing they could do to protect themselves. If they had done something differently from the rest, they may have suddenly found themselves a target. What would Rena have done to whoever attracted her attention? The answer was obvious. Undoubtedly acted with him, meaning I would be the next win. Rena's staring into my eyes, shards of glass crunching and crackling underfoot. Grew close. I was also drawn into her eyes, paralyzed. You just stop imagining her murdering you? I hate. Go away. Don't be on the screen alone. Then Rena struck me with the bat over and over again. One of those windows. Crouched down on the floor, desperately protecting my head. He's just completely crashing out, isn't he? Rena didn't care whether it was my head or my back. Zealously, she hit me again and again. What kind of expression was she making as she was doing this? I peered up to see. Her expression was so indifferent, it was completely unnerving. Because no matter how many times she struck me, it didn't pleasant a sound as the other window. Struck me continuously, over and over again. I found Rena wanted to. Classmates standing around didn't try to stop. I didn't want to be the next window. Somebody saved me. Turning a blind eye and left hanging out. But of course, everyone in class scrambled to obtain the highest standard test score. They gained nothing from saving a cramped school tryhard life. Eventually, there would be a faint sound similar to when you crack a wall, some sort of reddish black. Anyways, it wasn't that Rena momentarily lost herself in air. After forcing myself to breathe and calm down, I recalled what we counselor. Uh-oh. Ugh. Counselor's not. That was right. Get showed. What does? Following that, Rena was suspended and had regular examinations. Then, when Rena was undergoing counseling, said over and over, Shiro-sama. It seems that Orishiro-sama spoke it was a ghost appearing over her pillow and looking down at her. There was only one piece of the conversation, so I still couldn't see the picture, but it was by no means a happy little. And what Rena did was she sang that ghastly instant by Orishiro. Up until now, I didn't want to believe in Orishiro-sama's curse. That's why I wanted to serious deaths every year happen because of some sort of conspiracy. The time I talked with Oishi-sama, I was far more certain that the deaths were the work of men and not curse. Except if it was people perpetrating the incidents, friends were somehow deep. If I refused to believe that the curse was real, then I would have to believe that those who acted kindness to me were involved in the incident. How? What reason? Huh? Everybody? It was much more painful and troublesome accepting that it was Yoshiro's curse. In the aftermath, when I had admitted to her doctors that she was possessed by her, I felt a strange sense of relief from that. But that's how it was. It wasn't a second side. It did that because it was possessed by something strange. Shiro-sama. It wasn't Rena's fault. Shiro was the one to knew this was all backwards. Refusing to believe there was a curse, I wanted there to be a human perpetrator. Now my close friends were under concern. I changed my beliefs on at my own convenience. I was cursed to blame. Which was the better choice? Accepting that Yoshiro's curse exists? That Ren and the rest of them deeply involved in serious death. I didn't want to think about it. I just didn't think about it. I'd be able to continue the same way as always. I wanted to believe that. But no longer possible. I'd received their message. Pathetic of me to try and end the. Regardless of my opponent being human or a curse, I won't let it kill me. If I would just bend over and give in. No good reason at all. Hailing sharply upon hearing Rena's voice, I came back to myself. Before I'd realized it, we were already at the entrance. Shaking my head a few times, besides all those terrifying. No matter how you looked at it, there's no way Rena could have done such a terrible thing. It was like I was trying to place you. I slid the door open. The blackboard eraser loaded with chalk dropped down on my head the moment I stepped into the clock. Just went into my eyes and a brief moment of agony. I do her voice. Holy shit. I don't know what it is, but doing the deep voice fucked me up. How befitting for the truant Kiichi-san. Kiichi. Gocha. Nico. Not quite in the mood for it. I didn't really react to Sadako's trap. Sadako braced herself as I passed by, expecting me to attack her. She seemed a bit disappointed as I walked by. What is this? How discouraging indeed. Elf yet. Okay. Suddenly there was a slap down on my shoulder and it hurt a bit. Hey, Cake-chan, did you get enough rest? Neon. Mine was full of stuff about Rena, but Neon was also pressed. Remember Keiichi. Hawkish gaze from yesterday. Yeah, morning. What's with that unenergetic greeting? Eat the mochi I brought you? Because I ate. Those words were itching to be blurted out. I really just didn't have an appetite. I ate a few, but quite a lot were left over. Huh? What about the homework? Have any answer for which one was Rena's? Forget your Keiichi. Yeesh. Then we can't help it. Your penalty. Me. Flashing a lurid smile, Neon returned to her seat. There's nothing from our exchange that would cause our class to affect anything with anyone listening to our conversations up until this moment wouldn't see anything suspicious. That was why it was so frightening. They acted in a way that, regardless of how whatever happened to Keiichi, no one would ever suspect them. I was terrified. Then the teacher came. As she asked how I felt and took attendance, another dull, ordinary day began. I wonder if we're going to get more of the club hijinks where all this crap has happened. Good time? No tip for you. This free study period was a convenient time to consider where I stood. I gently closed my eyes and pondered the ridiculous position I was in. First of all, I shouldn't forget how dangerous a situation I was in. I'd fallen out of favor with them. After interacting with Oishi-san multiple times, I could see it was getting closer to the heart of the matter. Warning yesterday with the mochi was a good indicator. Calling it a warning was just my habit of understanding. Probably had no meaning beyond stunting my progress and buying themselves some time. Until they had a method of completely erasing me, hiding their time. Even though they were keeping me under their thumb with threats, it didn't change the fact that I would need to. Feeling sensation asked me to call Shadoko Hojo, or Satoshi Hojo, the boy who had been using this seat until last year when he disappeared. Also, something to me. He learned something he should have and was erased. Damn. I wouldn't let them get rid of me so easily. Ever. But, were they really trying to kill me? I've had these contradictory feelings for a while now. Even though I suspected them, I felt I had to cover for them. With all their suspicious behavior, a morning like this just made it all seem an elaborate hope. No, that was just what I wanted. Adding my friend. Covering for them? Life was in danger. Or was it? Actually, I was debating the wrong point. Given my certain situation, those points were something that should have been deliberated a long time ago. But really, Rena and the rest of them, were they really aiming to kill me? The little voice inside me continued to torment me. Unresolved trains of thought. You're an idiot, Keiichi. The answer should be obvious. Maybe that soon accident, right? How could you screw up dropping a sewing needle into a piece of mochi? The benefit of the doubt can only go so far. Rena and Mion acted and behaved suspiciously. Maybe it was all some sort of misunderstanding. Kind of misunderstanding. wasn't just suspicious, it was outright ludicrous. Brenda just corrected me for lunch. Mion only asked me what I had for lunch. Brenda was standing outside the door eavesdropping for a good hour, you know. She was probably just waiting for my phone call then. A whole hour outside your room? And is it normal to go home afterwards without saying? I heard from Oishi-san about what Rena did to her former school. But at the hospital, she said it was Oyashiro-sama's. Does he say this out loud? Get it out, Keishimaru. Didn't realize I have to kill you? Eh? I inadvertently blurt those words out loud. I'll say that shows directly left. Afterwards, I had to look around and check if anyone else had heard it. A little soliloquy, I cut a little too close to the truth. I could feel the murderous intent from Ren and the others. Part of me somewhere was still trying to deny that. This late in the game, such hesitation could be fatal. I knew that, but it was just your average man living his normal day, ordinary life. You think I could suddenly believe that my friends, who had been happily laughing together up until Sunday, now intended to kill me, right? You're too soft, Keiichi. Time I remembered to keep my voice down so only. There was one thing I now understood. I was too soft. I didn't completely understand how dangerous Ren and the rest of them were, but I wasn't trying to understand. I was too soft for not listening. Earnestly showing part of the battle. I didn't listen because I was too busy pretending to be dejected. I didn't comprehend it. I was just running away. I didn't comprehend it, so nobody had any notion to. I didn't comprehend it, so nobody had any notion to try and kill me. I needed to get rid of such naive thoughts. As I made that resolution, I heard the bell signaling the end of class. The day was already over. I didn't recall eating lunch or doing anything. My friends were putting their desks together in preparation for club activities. Not long ago, I probably would have happily jumped into that. My, Keiichi-san. How rude of you to even think about leaving. The way Sadako spoke was so typical and familiar, almost physically. Huh? Keiichi-kun. Been big together? Brenda's expression said she was really looking forward to today. Hard to take. Keiichi, maybe Oishi-san just some enormous jerk trying to separate me from the others in my life. Trying to expunge my such weak-minded thing, slap myself in the face. Keiichi? Yeah, was Rena really trying to kill me? Wish someone would let me in. Tell me it was a hoax. I didn't care if it was actually one or wanted someone to say. Guts. Yet another weak-willed thought. How could I ever become this naive? That hurt? Apparently that was how my inner dilemma appeared to Ren. Hell. Get home back. Maybe I should. Wonder? Oh, it's okay. Sorry. Have the meeting without me. Upon hearing that I wasn't going to participate in club meeting, Leon pouted unhappy. Since Kei-chan was so bent on a revenge match, we were going to play the deduction game. Or, two. Ichi-san doesn't have the burning desire for a rematch. How pathetic. I wouldn't fall for some dumb little taunt. Without even a real retort, I just grabbed my bag and was about to get up. Someone's hand perched itself gently on my head. It was Rika-chan. She would stretch up as hard as she could, doing her best to pat my head with her. It felt so nice. Harder. Sorry. See ya. That's all I said as I quickly left the class. She said something to me as I was leaving, but I couldn't make it out. I managed to make it all the way to the entrance and took out my shoes, put them on. Forward. Harden that heart, Keiichi Maebara. They were, for some unfathomable, trying to kill me. They were plotting something dubious, watching my every move. But I couldn't hate them, because weren't they my friends? Part of me lamented my naivete, while another part lamented the fact that I had something important by lamenting over it in the first place. I felt like my consciousness was being ripped out of my body. This is what Oyashiro-sama's curse was like. And it was just too harsh. Yeah, Oyashiro-sama, it's wrong for me not believing. I believe in it now. Completely. Curse does exist. Seriously, give me a break. Beg you, come on. It was unusually bland. It had no flavor or miso soup that normally tantalized my appetite instead tasted like. Dad was eating with us that night. It was a rare occurrence in this household. When he had gotten to his work, he ate and slept on his own. Dad never cared about the time. My dad was at the dinner table, reached a good point to take a break, or he was in a. So yeah, he just doesn't understand the motivation creators have. Partnership was just a verbal agreement, wasn't it? If it's so hard to agree on things, I feel like it's an industry with a lot of back scratching. It gets in the way of business. I wasn't able to pick up much of my mom and dad's conversation, but I could tell it wasn't a very pleasant talk. That, of course, made the disgusting food even less appetizing. Staring listlessly at the exchange, staring listlessly at the exchange between my parents, my mind wandered off the same thought. Friends close to me? No, they used to be my friends. I no longer trust them. Right now, I was generally greatly lacking in that. People I trusted, people I could depend on when push came to shove, there was something I just didn't have. Having just one ally would have been incredibly reassuring in the currently hope. I put down my chopsticks and looked over at my parents who were still talking about it. First course of action that came to mind was to tell my parents everything. Apparently, there wasn't a single person from Hinamizawa I could trust 100%. That meant the only people I could trust were my parents. If I told them everything that happened up until now, they understand. Rena, for example. That neighborly Rena, who was diligent in looking after me, came to get me every day and sometimes brought over a share of what she. How could I explain that she wanted to kill me? But how I explained, it would probably be difficult for anyone to comprehend. Somewhat eccentric dad wouldn't understand, and my high-strung would probably drag me to a psychiatrist in the blink of an eye. Sadly, that was the amount of trust that existed. Even if they did come to understand, what could they possibly do? Unless they could uncover the truth, they wouldn't be able to protect me. No, by informing them of these things, I'd be putting my parents in danger. Considering that the victims in the past were often married couples, I couldn't even joke on it. For the entire Mayabara family to have an accident or just to vanish into thin air, easily possible. What was important was that knowing something unnecessary put you in danger. The most unsettling question was, how did they know that I knew? As long as they don't know, my parents might not fall victim. That was the only way to think about it. Yes. At least it was like that in my case. After I found out, things started becoming odd. In other words, it meant the following. As long as my parents didn't know anything, nothing would happen to them. As long as my parents were here, this household was safe haven for them. I knew these were just assumptions based on conjecture on top. Wanting this house to be a safe haven, that was the pinnacle. I had to concede that it was not completely safe. Only safer than the other. I knew that I couldn't rely on my parents? No, I couldn't risk getting my parents. The only person that could be my ally would be Ushi-san. The only person who understood the situation. He didn't care so much about my safety, but without a doubt passionate about it. A bit frustrating. Ushi-san was basically the whole reason I was out of it. Meaning, it was all going according to. It was just my job to look appetizing while waves this big. Fish started gathering around, and Oishi-san would pull in the big hall. Slightly irritating, but even I thought that was the best course of action. So then, what should I do? Patience was the first schedule of fish. The first rule of fish. Just keep waiting until the fish actually. It wasn't simply bait. There were lots of ways for me to struggle before. When they struck, I needed to somehow dodge just enough to tag out to Oishi-san. No question, it was going to be hard. Having to bring Oishi-san difficult. He was in the city, not Hinamizawa. If I phoned him in my moment of need, I would need him. It would take him about 30 minutes to reach me. So I need to run away 30 minutes. For example, if we set up a rendezvous point for a dire situation or something, I just have to hide out there until. Okay, I can almost. I'm still being chased around in the dark by boogeyman. Which way to go? Never have imagined this so reassuring. Oh yeah, it would probably be best if I had a concealed weapon for that rough. Typically, that would call for a switchblade. But that wasn't too reassuring for Con. Also, since I recognized a weapon by the public that wasn't good. Really, when the time comes, a long weapon like a bat would be working my favor. I remember there was a metal bat at school, but I could be confident with that which came to shove. If I pretended I was practicing my swing, then it wouldn't be suspicious for me to carry it around. I could go to school early tomorrow and possessing a weapon may be enough to scare them. Also, one more thing. Insurance. It could be something like a note or a memo. I could write down everything that's happened as a sort of journal. In case I suddenly vanished, the journal would be left behind. My journal in his possession, Oishi-san should be able to avenge my death. I left my parents engrossed in their conversation and went about work and went back to my room. Already starting to mix up my. I tore out a piece of paper from my notebook and made my way to my desk. Last time I wrote a journal for summer home. The off chance that something bad happened, my diary is a leak. I should only write down the facts. I start. Jotted down my thoughts as they came. Keiichi Miyamura made me laugh nervously. It was a line that showed up often in detective stories. I never even dreamed that would be the type of situation where I'd write it myself. Not know why they. Rena and the others were suspicious, but I had no proof. Couldn't write any. I laughed wryly at myself for writing such a passage draped in mystery. Would the police be able to get the hint from reading this message? I'd only pray they would. I prayed for most was that this journal never needed to play. Here I laughed nervously. Too simple, so I wrote down one more line I just thought. The only thing I know is it has to do with Yoshiro Summon. That I probably shouldn't write more than that. If I wrote any more, then like I was. In order to appear to the reader that the person who does not write anything else. I just needed to add more as I learned more. But I folded the paper and thought about a place to hide. Hiding it somewhere obvious. On the other hand, too obscure of a location of nobody finding it. In the end, I decided to take the clock off my make it folded note, the back of it with. After that, I put the clock back onto his. Yeah, it didn't look like anything. I needed to set up such if anything happens to set it up so that. Wow. Now I needed to set it up such that if anything happens to me, my parents could find it. I looked at it from countless different angles until I was satisfied. My parents were still talking about it. It didn't look like it was going to end anytime I got in. Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to talk to you about it. I never started a conversation like that before, so my parents were both startled. Stopped talking and turned towards me. This is Keiichi. I have a favor to ask you, so please listen. Just in case, yeah? It's not urgent. Can we do this later? Right now, Mommy and Daddy have something urgent they're talking about. I didn't think their talk was more urgent than. In any case, I shared my request. Just in case, okay? Die. Both my parents' eyes went wide as saw. I want to put the clock on my wall in my car. If they did that, then they'd probably find my memoir. Both my parents remained wide, not moving it in. I couldn't blame them. I made that clock in shop class. I really like it. Please. What's the matter, Keiichi? Something happened? Finally able to ask me with a questioning gaze. First, this was a normal response, but I felt bad about making them worry, but right now I just want to think about the awkward move leaving the room in silence. I decided to go back. I want to go to school early tomorrow, so I'm going to bed. Night. Only that I left. I needed to get to school early tomorrow. Hear that bad. To make today the last day I went to. I climbed the stairs and heard my mom call my name. It was something I could talk about. It wasn't something I could talk about with my parents. If I talked about it, only make things. The fight that had begun was couldn't relax. I wouldn't be killed. Not when I still knew nothing. Not feeling so hot. Shadows pursue the truth behind the crimes. Yep. I wonder. Maybe he's on his period. That's gross. Yuck, 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 yuck. What do you think? Don't know. Could it be that Kei-chan... Could it be that Kei-chan maybe... That day, Kei-chan was in the car talking to some tubby middle-aged guy, right? A mistake. That Oishi, he probably fed him something fishy. Kei-chan's face was so... You see, you might not know this, but he's actually the messenger of Oyashiro-sama. What do you mean? Whenever he shows up, someone is demoned away. No lie. Oh? No? Year before last, when Rika-chan's mom drowned, right? Right before that, she was visited by Oishi. Sadako, Toshi-kun transferred out. Transferred? You're so sweet, Rena. This time he's appeared before Keiichi-kun. So Keiichi-kun's gonna be demoned away too? Empty silence hung in the air. Then it was suddenly interrupted by loud laughter. I don't like that. Alright. Chapter 10. And I think this is where I will cut it for today. Just doing Oishi's voice for so it's made my throat hurt. I don't think I can go much longer. Yeah. It's shit's picking up. And now we got me on crazy face. So yeah. Thank you everyone for watching. Like, comment, subscribe for more. Next time the collapse continue? I assume? Doesn't look like anything's getting better. Yeah. Till next time. Good one. Bye.